Hi, everybody. Russ on the West Ham Network. Hope you are all safe and well. No flashy video today because I didn't know how you could really have a flashy video to sort of talk about what we're going to talk about today. If you're new and give it a like, give it a comment, give it a share, give it a subscribe. As I said, I hope everyone is safe and well. Bin Day Wednesday. Put the bins out on Wednesday, as always. Before we get to talk about what we're going to talk about today, tonight, hopefully 9 p.m. He's due to text you back soon. We've got Governor B coming on doing a Miami's 11, so make sure you check that out. That'll be tonight, 9 p.m. Yeah, he's been on Good Morning Britain. Yeah, he's been on Sky Sports and all the others, but this is the one he's waiting to be going on. West Ham Network doing the Miami's 11. So hopefully we get Governor. He's planned to come on tonight at 9 p.m. So keep an eye out for that and make sure you hit the bell icon so you know when if it happens, because it should happen. But he did text me today saying he's up for it, and I texted him the time. He hasn't got back to me yet. But anyway, so we'll have Governor B on tonight. So that'd be good. That'd be interesting. Proper West Ham fan. Talks really sensibly about West Ham as well. Do you know what I mean? And obviously he is literally a massive guest. Obviously his track is called Massive, so that's why. It all works. Right. Anyway, let's have a little move into. Anything about what we're going to talk about, I'm going to start and come back to. Paul, John, James, your countdown as well. Helen, good afternoon to you. Good afternoon. Gaza. Irons, indeed, Toby. Hope you're sorry if anyone's listening to it with headphones. That hasn't really helped much. Gaza's talking to everyone. Toby, yep, we said so. Here we go. Super Chef is off today. Happy birthday, end of the month. So trying to find a lovely new coat. Any recommendations? Brand design, as long as it's warm. I had a nice what was it? Jules. It's quite a nice cake, quite a nice one. So that's my opinion. Landor C might be available as a Governor. You think you're hilarious, James. Governor B or Landor C, indeed. Right, what we got here? Afternoon, Oz. Hope you're well. Everyone's talking to each other. Afternoon, Richard. Good afternoon to you. Google heated coats. There we go. Just buy a flock of sheep to cuddle up against. Lovely. I'll check that out, George. Yeah, I've got it. It's like one of those. It's like a pad. Whatever. It's like a padded one, but it's not like. I'm not a big coat fan. I know we're not talking about COVID yet, but it starts the same letter. But it's quite warm, but it's cool. If that makes sense. You don't feel like you haven't got like a massive thing on. But yeah, check that out. I'm the mountains, mate. Hilarious. I'll tell you, that's like living in 2030, indeed. Right. Anyway, what I wanted you to talk about was about Farce-Nal is what I'm calling it. Same old Farce-Nal taking the P. But I think it's it's epidemic, or is it pandemic of, I think, what's been happening recently, and people have been speaking about what's happening recently, but I basically put some stats together. You know me, no heat maps today. Don't worry, no heat maps today. But some stats about games that have been called off and the rules, the actual rules that the Premier League say, how they can be interpreted as well. I think that's the trouble. There's so much grey area that it's really difficult to interpret. And so, and I've got some style comments here because Paul says any team taking the P should have big points deductions. James John says called the game off on Sunday, send out a player on Monday. That sounds like the start of a Craig David song. Got a cook on Sunday, player out on Monday. We were playing something by Tuesday. But there we go. What we got? Arsenal are disgrace not fielding a team, loaning out and releasing players. 20 points deduction minimum. Hi Hammers. Seems like when clubs are given opportunities to handle these outbreaks, some misuse the system. They have, and obviously Moyes came out and said that. Moyes came out and basically said that they were sort of forced to play the Norwich game redone. It's slightly difficult. So I'm just sending an email quickly. Someone just sent me very important me. I do apologise. Sorry. It's always the way, isn't it? So for me, it was like, and verbatimly, you think, some clubs been really taking the P and stuff like that. And so that's why I thought I'd put together some stats, because you know me, I like my stats. So obviously the news came out yesterday that Arsenal have loaned out Jose Mari to Udinese. As you said, as John in his best Craig David voice said, on the, they got the game called off on the Sunday against obviously Tottenham, and then they were releasing Murray by Monday, but also on a Friday, on a Thursday and Friday, they actually, thinking about it, had another 2 loan deals as well. In that, you had the lad went to Middlesbrough, and also you had Maitland Miles went to Roma on loan. So despite the fact loaning out 3 players, they haven't got enough players to play, but they've got enough players to loan out. And that's obviously one of the issues we're having, a lot of teams are having with the transfer window, in that, people don't want to get rid of their players until they have players in for this exact reason. But sometimes maybe some clubs are taking maybe more liberties than others. Maybe the rules may not, you can take different interpretations of the rules potentially. And that's what I thought was, very prevalent with Moyes coming out saying that he tried to get the game called off on the Norwich game. He didn't want to play it in that gap, and so why did we play that? And I mean, to be honest, if we'd gone back, I don't know, 2.5 years, 3 years, for example, when say the AFCON's running and people are having injuries and stuff, I can't ever remember a game being called off because of that. So, the only difference is COVID. And, if it's meant to be believed, the Arsenal game, there was only 1 COVID case in their squad, and that was Odegaard. And people like Gary Neville came out, Ralph Huselos, the Southampton manager, came out as well. And so, yeah, it's a very contentious subject. But I think it's something which no one seems to have really said anything about in any sort of clear way. It's almost like we should have more clarity. So when they are making applications to get games called off, we should all know how many players they have, because at the end of the day, it's good, for having 1 COVID case. If that's the case, we've played with Souček having COVID. Zuma had COVID. If it's meant to be believed, it was Soufal and Ashby have had COVID as well. Moyes had COVID. Do you remember? There was last season, and it's only been a relatively new thing. We had the whole of last year without any games being called off. I don't remember any games being called off. Now, in terms of the Premier League, this is what the Premier League say. So they say that according to the 2021-22 Premier League handbook, included COVID protocols, and stated the Premier League's board will only permit the arrangement or postponement of a league match in exceptional circumstances. The board make calls on a case-by-case basis, and by way of guidance, the Premier League says permission for a postponement will not be granted if a club have 14 or more players in their squad available. However, after the postponement of a number of games in the weeks leading up to Christmas, a new Premier League guide explaining match postponement protocols was published. And this is it. Let me move the little thing. This is on the Premier League handbook. What a game needs to be done to consider a top flight game to be proposed. 1, the impact of COVID infections on a club squad, as well as injuries, illnesses, and those isolating, and the number of players available in the squad, and any under 21s with appropriate experience. So where before it was basically due to cases, this now that's why there's more postponements, because it includes illnesses and injuries. So it's not just here about the actual COVID infections, number of infections they've got, but also illnesses and injuries. So and to be honest, AFCON would classify under that. So it's not necessarily teams that Arsenal taking the mick. They've got the ammunition here to do that. Where a club cannot field 13 outfield players and the goalkeeper, even from its squad, or its appropriately experienced under 21s players, that's also a very grey area. How can you say someone's experienced? Could that be why Mr. Moyes hasn't played any of these under 21 and 23s in the Premier League? They're not experienced, but it hasn't worked for us anyway. The status of an outbreak within a club, including the number of individuals affected, the sequence and sources of infections, and their proximity to the match in question, makes sense. So where 1 includes not just infections, but also in terms of injuries. Number 3 is basically infections. Number three, I've done 2 threes, doesn't matter. A club's ability to safely prepare its players in the lead up to a match. Medical advice as to whether there is an acceptable risk to the health and safety of players and staff by playing the match. Any advice from the UK Health Security Agency and other bodies, i.e., like last year when they sort of shut it all down, and any other exceptional circumstances. So there's so much grey area there. There's so much grey area. It's not surprising that clubs are taking the mick because there's so much grey area. If it was cut and dried, I mean, beforehand there was the 13. There was the 13 and one goalkeeper out. The original COVID protocol. Now there's so much grey area. It's not surprising that there's clubs taking the Michael. I mean, in terms of the games these are the games that have been called off. As of, and I'm going to come to the chat in a minute. Actually, let me move up a little bit so I know where I am. There we go. So these are the games that have been called. So I think 21 games have been called off. Now, obviously, last year we had COVID last year, but I don't remember any games being called off last year at all. But it's only because of this new directive, it seems, that we've had this outbreak, so to speak, of game postponements. Yeah. So it started in December the 12th. December the 12th, Tottenham versus Brighton was postponed. And then it went to the 14th, 15th, and then in like the 18th, we had 5 games postponed, including West Ham, although it wasn't West Ham's request. It was Norwich's request. West Ham that time had 100% COVID clear amongst their squad. Since then, we've had a few, obviously, people have had COVID, allegedly, but we don't necessarily know exactly. But we know Souček did for sure, and Zuma had it for sure, in terms of what Moyes says. Then we've had Leeds. We had Liverpool, quite a few games over the Christmas period being called off. And in fact, every week, bar I think the middle of January, the second week in January, we've had a game being postponed. In the 10 games that are in the Premier League each match week. So it's becoming a regular thing now. In terms of how those games have been reallocated, so far only 2 of them 21 games have been played. Unsurprisingly, one of them's West Ham, much to David Moyes' annoyance. But the Everton-Leicester game, that was then cancelled again last week rather, for COVID reasons. You've got Brentford Man U tonight, and Leeds Tottenham tonight. So, there's a number of games there which still have to be squeezed into the calendar. So good luck to them. And also on top of that, you have Tottenham, obviously with Rennes. They couldn't fulfill that fixture and ended up getting kicked out of the Europa League, which I think was they took a 3-0 defeat because they couldn't reschedule it before the French winter break, which I think actually is a very clever way of doing it. And actually, it may have stopped other people doing that and taking advantage. And obviously, we had the Carabao Cup, the Arsenal Liverpool round, the first leg, and then it got changed all around again. So Arsenal then Liverpool played the second leg as the first leg, and now you've got the Arsenal Liverpool game. Yes, you know how it works. So in terms of collating all that. Oh yeah, we'll come back. Oh yeah, let me come back to and on top of that, so lots of games have been cancelled, and I'll go through who have been cancelled in terms of the numbers across the Premier League. But 0 for the third round of the FA Cup, despite the fact maybe Burnley. I think Burnley had a postponement in between either side of the FA Cup. The FA Cup, there was no postponements at all. That's weird, isn't it? That's a bit weird, because surely that would have been even better, wouldn't it? That would have been even better. The FA Cup, we could easily have postponed a game, but there was no postponements, or none that I was aware of when I was doing my research. And it's because I think the FA have taken a very hard line for it. Very hard line. They basically have said, you've got to compete. Clubs competing in the 21-22, FA Cup are expected to participate in fixtures, they are currently scheduled, basically. Now, I don't know if any clubs made a request, because they have to make a formal request, and the same as the Premier League, to get the games postponed. The FA took the decision to take off the 3rd and 4th place games as well, in terms of the replays for 3rd and 4th round, which I thought was, it took a little bit magical at the cup because you like the lower league teams to maybe get a draw and go back to their gaff, or maybe like, for example, the Kidderminster West Ham game. That has to be decided on the day. I wouldn't. It'd be for a Kidderminster fan getting a replay back at the London Stadium would be amazing. Not for us, but for the Kidderminster, it'd be amazing. And so they took a really hard line for it. So that's surprising, particularly someone like Burnley. I think Burnley had to play a load of youngsters, and then that happened. I think last year as well, was it Villa and Liverpool, because of Liverpool's involvement in the Club World Cup. That Villa had to fulfill that fixture and they had to play loads of kids. I think they lost. Same game as yesterday, actually, the Brighton-Chelsea game. People were like, that was rescheduled because of COVID. It wasn't. That game was rescheduled because the Club World Cup's been moved to February, and I think it's Arsenal. I think Chelsea got rescheduled the game of Arsenal as well over that February period. So that was why that was postponed. So in terms of how it all works, so top of the league is Burnley. Top of the league somehow. Burnley, 5 games they've been involved where it's been postponed due to COVID. Leicester and Watford at 4. Everton, Arsenal and Spurs. I put an asterisk next to Arsenal and Spurs because that includes non-Premier League matches. So Arsenal, that's the Carabao Cup, and for Spurs, that will be the Europa League, and same with Liverpool as well. So Liverpool have got a bunch of teams there. West Ham only won the Norwich game, which we've basically already played. And then we've got Chelsea and Man City, who have not been involved in a COVID-related postponement this season, who are, very close to the top of the league as well. So, and maybe a team like Man City and Chelsea have the ability to fulfill these games because they've got so many squad players potentially. Who knows? But it does seem strange that they haven't as much. But yeah. That's me. Let's see what we've got. Some of the, but I want to hear your opinions about it all because that's the facts. That's what I've had a look around and zoomed around and looked at some of the websites and looked at the various postponements and what's happened. I mean, the fact is that fair play to UEFA for playing. Basically saying to Tottenham, you've got to play this game or it's a 3-0 loss, and that's what it used to be. If you couldn't fulfill a game, it was a 3-0 loss. So. I know it's different now, but there should be. I mean, I always think there should be something. There's no deterrent. So to speak, to have the game postponed. And so, or to not have the game postponed. It's the easy way out, isn't it? Easy way out. And I think actually, if it means developing the other 23 squads, so more kids are playing, that ain't a bad thing, surely. Surely it means that the youth system will you have to have a good youth system to work with this as well. I don't know. Good afternoon, playmates. Teams have three squads, so injuries can be replaced by new rules being made this season as COVID is here to stay. Indeed, but they don't, Pete. Why has there been 21? You don't tell me that Arsenal could not have put out a side, and then they actually have 3. They've sent 3 players out on loan in the last 2 days. Taking the P, are we forcing them to give sure examples as well? No, just a thing up the hooter. Newcastle looking to sign Lingard. Man United don't want to send to a top 3 rival. As I said, I don't think that will happen. That's what I said. I can't see Lingard until the summer coming to us for that exact reason, unless we pay a lot of money. There's a saying in America about sports: if you ain't chilling, you ain't trying. Well, I mean, they've basically, for me, the Premier League have opened it up. They've let these people. They've given us the option to have this grey area. So, and they've set so many precedents now that actually, if you say, well, why can't we play them because they played them? And it's like, well, yeah, it's a good point. One rule for one rule for the other. Although it's always been like that a little bit, it seems, with the greedy 6. Now it's opened themselves up to everyone. Good afternoon all to James. Right, unpopular opinion. I'd love to see Andy Carroll back. Lanzini back in form. Chris, I'll get a big AC on board. There we go, Tobes. Never going to happen, but we'll see. Only legitimate I can see is no keepers available. I totally agree, James, because that's a crucial. It's a bit like in rugby. In rugby, you have to have, like, for the concussion rules and stuff like that, you have to have a front row. If they're front row, the hooker and the 2 props, they have to be able to play in that position because it's crucial in terms of like just knowing how to scrum and their safety and stuff like that. Same with the goalkeeper, unless you got Henry Lansbury like we used to, or Phil Jagielka. He was always a good second keeper for Everton and Sheffield United, or Julian Dix. He went between the sticks, didn't he, once for us? Or, as I said, on Henry Lansbury, the Sam Allardyce mantra, put him on the bench and he can play midfield, or in goal for an EB. When Zuma and Cresswell went out, I said West Ham should come down with Super COVID until they all healed up. Indeed, Super COVID. I like that. Fair play to Leeds, carried on without. That's what I mean. Look at Leeds. Leeds, like they fulfilled that. I mean, they had to fulfill the FA Cup because everyone else did, but they've had loads of injuries. Technically, they could have on number. If they had like one COVID case, they could have used 0.1 of that handbook and got the Premier League to. And I think they've had a couple of games postponed, but I don't know if that was their doing or the opposition. That's the trouble now. From the Premier League, however, we are willing to bend the rules as we don't want them to leave us. Indeed. Breaking news: Joy has said he's no longer interested in Sean Wright-Phillips. Just Idager Johnson and Carlos Bacca to go. The whole statement is so vague. Anyone can bet. Exactly, Football and Ollie. Exactly, man. Yeah, sorry for our non-Premier League. Sean Wright-Phillips, SWP. We had I mean, you're a relatively new fan, Mickey, aren't you, in terms of your countdown? We had it was like it was always the transfer window. It was always we're going to sign Sean Wright-Phillips and Idager Johnson. For many years they were having, and that was the ongoing joke. They were still having their medical, and then it was slightly recent times. It was Carlos Bacca as well. So yeah, those teams will be begging the league to not play those games when they begin to build up. They're not, their fault not playing the games. Exactly. So we're going to be kicking back and playing one game, or hopefully we'll be playing 2 game weeks because we'll still be in Europa League knockout stages further on the competition. But they're going to have to really, really struggle to get these fixtures in, particularly like Burnley. And I know there was accusations of Newcastle. People say, oh, they're definitely letting their games go because they have a different squad. They've still got to play the games, and it doesn't matter who they play. Really, they still have to play those games. I think it was Ralph Huselos from Southampton was saying, no, you can't play players that you signed after that date. And it's like, it's the same way, but it's the same way. We get games moved all the time, really, don't we? Usually for Europa differences or cup games and things like that. Games get moved about all the time. But I think when specifically about COVID, I totally agree. I'm trying to get the Carabao Cup game postponed. Indeed, FA Cup guidelines are different from the league, and maybe that's the way we should have gone. James, being a tougher line. How come there are no postponements in Europa? In Europe, they have COVID there as well, yet games are being played. I don't know, lads. They were okay fielding youngsters. Mrs. Budden just called. Sorry about that, Mrs. Budden. Just getting my dinner order in. Not sure how it's going on leave, but also has to do with postponed games. There we go. Thanks for the insight, please, Maggie. Very good. I wish the so-called 6 would bugger off. Arsenal, who got a game postponed due to the lack of players and 2 years later. Exactly. But not just that. I mean, they sent they sent where is it? There is they sent Jose Mari to Juventus, but like the day before, the other side in between the postponement, they'd basically sent out Maitland Miles to Roma, and they'd sent out is it Fulham to Middlesbrough. So how does that work out? Surely they can bring them back. Why don't they just bring them back and they can play them? I don't know. If you can fill on 23s, they should have to play. Indeed, the foundation were forced to play games without any training after the Christmas. Absolute joke. Time to scrap the under 23s, go back to the old reserve teams. I was listening to an answer. I was listening to someone on TalkSport talking about how the reserve games were better than the under 23s because you would play a lot of the guys coming back from fitness or guys needing games as well, necessarily under 23s themselves. Interesting point. I think if you request a postponement due to players not following protocols, there should be a points deduction. Interesting. AC scored 2 cracking, albeit disallowed goals for Reading. Basically, play no more than 20 quid a game. Bargain. Who's the prat with a ponytail who keeps shouting irons every 5 minutes on the Heineken beer bus? I think I know who you're talking about. I can't remember his name. No more mask wearing starting from next Thursday, apparently. There we go. Aita Sakalo, the answer. There we go. We'll do a transfer roundup. Still did one yesterday. Check it out, the West Ham Network. We'll do one tomorrow night. Our transfer Thursday roundup, which is good. Yeah, out with the audio because I paused it because I was talking to my wife. That was why. The way Burnley are going, they're going to be playing 2 games a week. Did X job in on Hlasek? Well, basically, someone asked him a question about Hlasek, and he went, "The deal's there to be done." But then, of course, the deal's there to be done because we've got Danny Krasinski, who owns 40% of the bloody the bloody Cubs. It's really amazing how these teams are okay to field youngsters in the early rounds of the cup games. Exactly, but they're not. Then they're not experienced enough to play in the Premier League games. Je ne comprends pas. Or is it je ne sais pas? Afternoon Clips, good afternoon to you. Honestly, sterling work recently, Clips. Sterling work. I was talking to Martin Godliman, who's the announcer at West Ham, and we love clips. We love clips. We send it around our little WhatsApp group, and even with even like the Leeds game and all the fallout and all the chaos that went with everything, and everyone hated West Ham and hated Moyes and bored out of it. All I was doing was waiting for clips. All I was doing was waiting for clips. How quickly he could get that video out, but very good fun. Anyway, if you haven't seen it, where have you been all your life? It's absolutely brilliant. Love clips. Why is it called transfer window and not the transfer door, or do players have to climb through a window? Well, it's because of Harry Redknapp and the car window. That's why it's called the transfer window. I'm pretty sure. Peach, we're getting Attila. Well, that's one of the guys from Fenerbahce, the Hungarian centre back. Very interesting. I think it's about 15 to 20 million, something like that. Is it 13 to 20 million, something like that? I've seen quotes for. So it'll be interesting. As I said, Stel yesterday did his transfer roundups. I do them on a Thursday because so much happens literally every day. So I'll be doing that tomorrow. As I said, tonight we've got, hopefully, all being well with a fair wind, we've got Governor B. Governor B. He is literally massive because he's written a track called Massive, and obviously it was iTunes #1. All the proceeds going to Isla. Top man. Yes, he's been on Good Morning Britain and he was on Sky Sports today. But this is the thing he wants to do the most. Come on, West Ham Network. Talk to DJ Russie B about his Hammers 11. So hopefully that's going to happen tonight. Just confirming if it is. He did say he's up for tonight. He sent me a text and I said it back to him with a time, and he hasn't responded to the time. So anyway, if not, you know why he can't make that time. Who's the striker from Strasbourg? We are sniffing around. Ajorke, Ludovic Ajorke. He looks like an absolute nutter. I'm going to find a picture. He looks like when he's got his head shaved, he looks like an absolute nutter. He would fit in so well. He looks like, well, let me find a picture. Where's a picture of him with his head shaved? When he's got his head shaved, he looks like absolute crazy man. You would not. Oh, here she goes again. Mrs. Bunn, I do apologize. Yeah, anyway, ink cartridges. How exciting is my life at the moment? Let me show you a picture of this guy. He's an absolute unit. Look at this. If I walked down the road and I saw this bloke, I'd be like, I would definitely cross over. Oh, look at him. He looks scary with it. He looks scary with a skinhead. Absolutely scary with a skinhead. And he's and obviously if you're interested about him as much as anyone else, then yesterday I did a whole thing of heat maps. I'm not going to talk about heat maps today. I'm not going to talk about my heat maps. That's what I'm saying. So go and watch that yesterday. All about heat maps, and he's got a nice heat map. Ended up with getting Billy Bonds into it. Well, he hasn't got a telephone, so there we go. So a mobile phone. So how's he going to get the internet? Eventually, Pete needs a nut. We haven't had one for a while, have we? Really? I mean, Arnautovic is probably our last bastard player. We haven't had. We need one. We haven't had one for ages. So let's see what we can do. Does he look like Dixie with a shaven head? I think he looks scarier. Realistically, exactly clips? This is who's tuning into Good Morning Britain or Sky Sports. West Ham Network is the place to be on a Wednesday afternoon. There we go. And it'd be Wednesday evening by the time, because 9 p.m. he's coming on. You see, The man speaks sense. The man speaks sense. Get Costa in, not the coffee shop. Diego Costa, oh, he's a nasty bastard, isn't he? Any teams found to be breaching COVID should be forced to walk from their stadium to Wembley naked, with the shame none walking behind them. Speaking of walking from Wembley to the stadium, in March, DJ Rusty B is doing, and members of maybe other members of the West Ham Network, possibly, definitely members of the Iron Supporting Food Bank. We're doing a charity walk from Wembley Stadium. We're going to call it the three statues: Wembley Stadium to London Stadium for the European statue, to the bowling for the Bobby Moore statue. The three statues. It's going to take probably about 5 or 6 hours walking. I'm not running, fuck that. It's about 17 miles, but we're doing that for Iron Sporting Food Back. So there'll be loads of stuff coming out. We're just confirming the day. It'll probably be the Sunday after the England game in March, which is mid-March, and then we'll put some stuff out and show you where you can donate and stuff like that. So we're doing a big, and that's for Easter, because they do a big drive for Easter for all the kids, so they can give them, as well as the food bank stuff, the sort of tins, the rice, they can give them some chocolate and Easter egg as well. Same as Christmas, we do the things with the advent calendars and selection boxes. So keep an eye out for that. He's 23 and 6'4". There we go. Too right, Russ. I must have refreshed my Twitter page a million times to see clips of West Ham. Exactly. It's not just me, Peach. It's you as well. Where is Jesus is my Hammers 11? Do you know what? Me and Clips have spoken about that. We've spoken about Jesus is my Hammers 11. It will come eventually. Or because I think it'd be quite, because up there's, the Snod Father. I mean, Clips has done a My Hammers 11 as well. Go back and check it out, which was very interesting. Very funny clips as well. Jesus is doing my City 11. There we go. You ready for Governor B? Oh, Peach. Oh, yeah. Don't forget Peach coming tonight. Hopefully we've got Governor B coming on. And big West Ham fan. Talks a lot of sense. Talks a lot of sense for a West Ham fan, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? He sort of knows what he's doing. So, yeah, he'll be on tonight. As I said, make sure you subscribe to the network. Make sure you hit the bell notification, because you make yourself aware of any time we put new content on, as always. Maybe become a channel member. Be nice, wouldn't it? Hit the join button and support the channel in all that we do. As I said, we'll have that tonight. I'll be back tomorrow lunchtime, probably for another lunchtime show. Thursday we'll have our transfer roundup night, and then we'll start getting ready for Man United on Saturday. I think I'm doing the watch along, because Anton's going all corporate. Anton's going all prawn sandwich on us. He's going all prawn sandwich. He's going corporate. Ooh la la. So he's going, but I think he's taking Freddie as well, so that'd be quite cool for him. So we'll see. Let's get the last few before we dish off. We need players in before we will no doubt get players into the international duty. Pete, I think after Saturday, I think we have our 2 week sort of winter break, so to speak. I think you're going to see a lot of activity there amongst teams. As I said, I think it's only 6 teams in the Premier League have bought players this year, this transfer window, and 2 of them have sent their players back out on loan. And I think Villa, I don't even know where are Villa in the league. Is it Villa or Wolves are ahead of each other? Let's have a quick look. This is football. So the highest placed team that has bought someone is Wolves, who are 8th, and they sent them back out on loan. And then I think it's probably then Villa, wouldn't it? Yeah, probably Villa. But they've obviously got Coutinho and spent far too much money on Digne. Watford have bought some players. Burnley haven't bought anyone yet. Newcastle have bought a couple of players we know. And so Everton have bought a couple as well. So it's the lower one. So I think you'll see a lot more coming after Saturday for that 2 weeks across the board. West Ham play Chelsea tonight in the Continental Tires League Cup, KO 730. Big up to Kate Longhurst, friend of the channel. Have some of that. Big fan. Is he as bad as Repka? Who knows? 2 clash last week and empty seats. Yeah, mental, isn't it? Russ, is it true Villa are going after Suarez? Well, apparently Suarez is trying to go after Villa, I think, isn't it? He wants to go back to Villa because of Coutinho and stuff as well. Has Moyes said no, he hasn't. Do a swap with Suzanne Reid. Well, we've had Ben on. We've had Ben Shepherd on, friend of the channel. So there we go. It's like a Flair midfielder, he plays centre back as the pace of Walker. He is. Attila looks really good. And I thought he was going to Chelsea anyway. So I think not a lot of clubs went in for him. But it turns out he is not going to Chelsea. And everyone's sort of gone, oh shit, well I'll put a bid in then. Anyway, I'm going to go. I'm going to have to go my lunch and busy day at work as well. Take care, everyone. Stay safe. Wash those hands. Get those jab appointments. Get those boosters. Come on, you irons. And thank you to our channel members. Love you all. See you later on tonight. Bye.
It's like a family tree.